Hey, what's up guys, it's Jing here, looking to bring you an ambient tutorial video. I already have my sample loaded up, so basically it's like, I guess, vaporwave, not vaporwave, but it's like wave, trap, ambient trap. I don't really know the genre, I just know it sounds super ambient, and it has like trap like drums, or just really hard percussion based instruments. Um, it's typically a style of music that I like to do. So for the sake of this little video, I just kind of wanted to show my techniques. I'm not going to sit here and say this is exactly what fits the genre or the sound. Just kind of wanted to make a little tutorial video. Maybe you can pick up a little bit of tips and stuff like that. I know everybody makes different types of music, so kind of figured it'd be cool to put at least like what I do or like how I engineer sounds and going into this. So typically what I do is I find like some type of anime-esque sample or just something really pretty. You can even use soundscapes. You can look up like a space soundscape and take it off of YouTube. Take it to a YouTube to MP3 downloader and get the audio file that way. It's typically what I do. Um, so yeah, this is the one I found, and I've already kind of stretched it a little bit. I'm gonna mess around with the pitch a little bit, and then I'm gonna start throwing effects on it, and then I'm just gonna lay out the drums, and that's gonna be really the sake of this video. I'm not gonna make a whole template. Um, when I find a better sample in the future, I want to be able to make like a full template and show you like the effects and stuff like that. But I kind of just want to make it like the stylistic approach to it, just with percussion and stuff like that. So I'll get into it. I'm going to be muted back and forth mainly because I play all the audio out of my speakers, so I will always explain what I'm doing afterwards. Cool. So basically, what I did was I turned down the tempo because you really want it to be like elongated. You want the song to kind of make you feel something. So you don't want to make it too fast to where it just goes by, and you really want to feel the sound. It's typically like how it is with a soundscape. You kind of almost want to make it like a soundscape in terms of like your feel. With ambient music, it's more of just like an experience or an expression. So what I wanted to do is make this super elongated. Then I threw a little bit of delay up here, and delay is just gonna help it like kind of float out more. You can mess around with any of the presets or make your own, whatever you think is natural to the sound itself. Whenever I use delay or anything else, I usually make it like almost like I make it what I envision the sound to be. So, I want this one to kind of like putter a lot. So I used tape delay and I turned it down a little bit um, so that it wasn't too like, it didn't peak too hard or wasn't a lot of like, extra frequencies coming off of it. So I just turned it down always a little bit. You can turn it down halfway, but I turned it down right there. So maybe a little less. Yeah. And so now what I'm gonna do is add reverb. I know I didn't explain I was gonna add delay, but I'm gonna add reverb. Basically, what this will do is this is just gonna make it sound like super hall like. So like you're kind of sitting in a coliseum or something like that. I'm actually gonna use Fruity Convolver. I've been using that a little more. Typically, people just use Fruity Reverb 2. I've been using that for a long time, but I want to use Fruity Convolver more lately. It has so many different presets, and you can really get a different type of sound too, or it just adds extra reverb, which really kind of like warms up the sound and really makes it sound ambient. So I'm just gonna go around and mess with this a little bit. Cool. So as you can see, it really kind of like warms up the sound and really gives it some, I don't know, it really gives it some backing. So I've really been liking Fruity Convolver, and so now what I want to do is kind of like maybe throw a little bit of effects on it, maybe some chorus or maybe some effector. I've been using a lot of effector lately. Really like this. It has a bunch of different things you can do. You can make it into a box. You can grain it. Filter, phaser, flanger. I don't know how you call that, but yeah, there's a bunch of different things you can do with it. Even add distortion or just regular reverb. So just by playing with this, it allows you to put it into a different pitch or give it some more frequency than not. I haven't really messed with this a lot lately, so I'm not really gonna. I'm gonna leave it in 1/4. I think that's more when you try to gate stuff. But yeah, so I'm gonna mess with this, and this bypass here allows you, so when you're messing around with it, it takes off the bypass so you can hear what it's doing, but when you let it back, it's gonna leave the bypass on. So if you click that off and then drag the dry and wet, it actually allows you to hear more of like the phaser. So like I usually add phasers, so it's gonna let you hear more of it or hear less of it depending on how wet it is. So yeah. Cool. So now I have that set, all I have to do is basically EQ this out. And so now what I can do is just pull parametric EQ2. I mean, you can use a little equalizer here. It's really up to you, but I like using EQ2 because it gives you more of a visual of all the frequencies that are going on and the sound that you want to mess with. And so yeah, so typically, you want to cut out, depending on how heavy a sample is with the low end, some of them have actual drums in them because people usually sample songs or stuff like that, so you want to cut out the low ends, but you also want to because you want to hear the 808s when you add them in, but with this one, it's not too low, it's just more of a piano low, so I think if I just cut out the 1, it's going to be better than just cutting out 1 and 2 and bringing it all the way to the middle so you don't have no low frequencies. So I'm just going to be messing around with that, and then I'm just going to kind of play some 808s from the drum kits that I have to kind of just help that out. So yeah. Alright, cool. So it turns out I actually had to turn down 1 and 2. Sometimes you can just turn down 2 a little bit, like I did with 3 here. But yeah, so I raised the middle frequencies a lot. I didn't want to raise it too high because I don't want it to be a peaking high key. Like I didn't want to have the brighter notes to be super blatant here, or like just be super obvious. And so what I did was I just turned down 1 and 2. I turn into this little knob here, so these actually affect the shape that you're doing stuff with. And I usually just put it to the right because then I can just clip it down and throw it off. But these, when they're on like looking like a diamond or a star almost, you can just like move it, and you can actually, if you scroll down and up, you can change like how tight peaking you want this little portion of the sound to be. And so yeah, you can do a bunch of cool different stuff with these little knobs here, and also with these. But I usually just do that and leave it at that. So now the next thing I want to do is add an 808. So I already found one. 9 seems pretty good. So I'm going to add that in. Then what I want to do is make sure this is in key. So what I want to do is go down here, edit an audio editor, go down to here to regions, go to detect pitch regions, and then it's in G sharp. So it's naturally going to be in C as they're set typically, unless like, it's God tier. So yeah, so you see how it's like that. So I want to go to G sharp, and now it sounds great. So now if I hit it, it should be fine now. I'm going to leave it in C though, just to kind of mess around. Well, I'll see how it is. But nonetheless, sorry, I'm just kind of talking to myself. But yeah, so now I just want to find a kick too, and want some kind of heavy. I'm going to use this one. I can make this a little lower sounding too, it's a little higher sounding, but yeah, so now what I want to do is add the pattern in, and I'm just going to loop it through, so that way I can kind of start building a pattern. And you can just see how I build patterns now. I'll just make it into 8 because it's repeating, and yeah. I've kind of been laying down a percussion pattern. Biggest thing is that you kind of want to add in a lot of percussion, and you really want to make things sound vibrant. So as you'll see when I start going back into this, I'm really gonna add some like hi-hats, a lot of probably different perks, like some different instruments, and I'm really gonna be like editing them to make them sound super full, and also give them a reverb so that they kind of sound more ambient towards the melody as well. And then I'm gonna start manipulating a couple of things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start continuing this pattern. So just follow along, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me at the end of the video, with comments or something like that. It's not the end of the video, but I just wanted to make sure that I explained that as well. Cool, so now I have it like sounding really nice. I know this is probably gonna seem really crazy to a lot of you people, or a lot of people. Um, Shouldn't say you people, sorry about that. But I know it's gonna seem pretty crazy, mainly because this looks like a freaking chord and they're just hi-hats. I don't know why. I was messing around one day and found that when I do a couple effects and stuff like this with these types of patterns and hi-hats, it actually gives it a lot of, it makes the hi-hats really active, and I think that's kind of the biggest thing about ambient music is making like the percussion super active in the background because it almost makes it sound lively. I mean, the sample in itself is like the melody and it's the feel, but if everything else is pretty dull to me, in my own personal opinion, it just kind of seems like everything's just dragging along. So what I like to do is make my instruments or anything I'm adding in seem super active. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and start putting this in the mixer channels and then kind of editing them. And then I'm gonna go back and edit the 808s later. I know they're just one note, so it's gonna sound pretty dull right now. But I'm going to go back and actually edit those and make it like an actual nice little pattern. And yeah, so you'll get to see what I'm doing here. Like I said, I'm gonna go in. You'll start to see what I mean by making these things lively. It's just a lot of reverb and delay. That's how you get them to bounce off each other and make them sound like they're almost like just kind of hanging out and chilling with the melody. I don't know. It's all personified, I guess. But I'm gonna go in and do this. Alright, cool. So now that basically I kind of have the pattern laid out, basically the only thing that comes from this more so is just essentially building off of this, and that's pretty much where I go from things. Like, you can add a bunch of different things to the melody itself. Like, if I wanted to, I could do this, make another unique sample, and then call this like 25, and then I could route this to channel 2 and make this entirely different. So I'll kind of go in there and I'm going to throw some more stuff on this, and I'm probably going to change this a little bit, so we're going to see what happens. Cool. So now that I basically have it like this, like I said, as you can see, I threw some grow speed in, basically kind of makes it lower, and what it does is it gives like a nice little like triplet tone because it's in slow triplet, but it's still kind of going because of the piano itself. Always with pianos, I feel like even if you throw them in slow triplets, they're just like they still like ride. They're not like too out of tune, so it's kind of still like it's almost in 4/4. Especially the delay too. The delay kind of keeps it going because it's like repeating everything. So it seems like it's not really in triplets, but it is. So as I said, it's gonna keep going like that. And what I can do now is just kind of show at least a little bit of just like little effects you can do to the total thing. Like I said, I'm not gonna frame this entire song. This is more just like an approach to how to get things to sound ambient. As you can see, the drums all ride out. Everything sounds super like nice and clean. Not that great. I didn't spend that much time on it, but I mean, it's like for the simplicity of this video, it sounds pretty great. So I'm just gonna like do a couple little effects in the master and kind of just see like what could be like an intro or like what I could do later on in the song. That's typically what I do because usually when I start with a song, I build like the sounds that I want and like what I want for like the beginning of it, and then I just build on from there, and then I just mess around with effects to see like what I could do for an intro, what I could do for like the middle, and then kind of like build an idea. so that's gonna wrap up this little tutorial video. I'm sorry that it's like my first one, but so and the sample wasn't that great. I just wanted to make one, just kind of get it out there. So like I said, this is typically what I do. My name is Jing. Hope you learned a couple of things. Hope some things kind of like stood out to you. Like I said, biggest thing is just mainly making the percussion stand out, or at least just be a part of the song and not just kind of ride along with the song. Because with ambience, you really want to feel what you're doing and feel what you're hearing. So yeah, like I said, that's pretty much the biggest thing that I do. A lot of other stuff just comes from like in the moment. Oh, this would sound great, and oh, I want to do this now. I want to transition into this. Maybe I can make this song aggressive, make it slower. Always remember to keep it low BPM. The higher BPM is fine if you really just want to have a banging song. More or less, just be like more aggressive or fast paced, and that's cool if you want to go like nightcore or just like more higher paced wave, but typically with wave or ambient trap, it's always pretty slow. Between like 90 to 120 is usually what I would say. And just kind of build your drums around that. Biggest thing to the hi-hats to make them is the reverb, delay, and gross beat. Add some pretty cool effects, and just change stuff up. Everybody likes to hear change-ups and transitions with any type of just instrumental song. So yeah, that's been it. I hope you enjoyed, and sorry this was shitty, but I tried. And next time I'll definitely do one where I do a lot more. So thanks and peace.